Welcome to your Ethereum News Roundup. Here's your latest for Wednesday, September 20th, 2023. Aztec releases a local testnet for private smart contracts. L2B introduces a new TVL framework. Balancer suffers a DNS hijack attack. And the Holesky testnet is set to relaunch on September 28th. All this and more starts right now. The Arbitrum on Gitcoin grants round is now live. If you'd like to support this podcast, please consider contributing to our grant by visiting ethdaily.io/Gitcoin. Aztec Network introduced Aztec Sandbox, a local developer testnet for creating privacy-preserving applications. The release includes a lightweight local Aztec node, an Aztec RPC server, the Aztec.nr framework, Aztec.js, Aztec CLI, and a VS Code extension tailored for Nor, along with code tutorials. Developers can use the sandbox to experiment with private smart contract composability, private layer 1 to layer 2 function calls, private state management, and hidden function execution. The release represents the initial phase in Aztec's developmental roadmap to construct a fully decentralized, privacy-preserving Layer 2 network. Layer 2 analytics platform L2B introduced a new framework for calculating total value locked in Layer 2 networks. The updated TVL metric on L2B will now default to include the value of native tokens deployed directly on Layer 2. Previously, L2B only accounted for tokens that originated from Layer 1, as well as chain-specific tokens like OP and ARP. The TVL calculation will now include canonically bridged assets, externally bridged assets, and natively minted assets within Layer 2 networks. L2B will also take into account the total supply of tokens on the Layer 2, the circulating supply of native tokens, and the token's CoinGecko ranking when selecting tokens for inclusion in TVL. Balancer suffered a DNS hijacking attack that resulted in the loss of over $228,000 worth of assets. During the hijacking incident, users accessing the Balancer frontend were deceived into approving a malicious smart contract, which ultimately transferred their assets to the attacker. Balancer has since regained control over its domain. Balancer attributes the security breach to a social engineering attack on its domain register provider, EuroDNS. In response, Balancer announced plans to deprecate its use of the .fi top-level domain in favor for a more secure register. And lastly, the relaunch of the Holesky testnet is scheduled for Thursday, September 28th at 12 p.m. UTC. The relaunch comes after the initial Holesky testnet launch failed due to misconfiguration issues. A launch party for the testnet will take place in Holskovich, Prague at the Bordel hackerspace. The Holesky testnet will feature an initial validator set of over 1 million validators and 1.6 billion testnet ether available at Genesis. In other news, PayPal's PYUSD stablecoin goes live on Venmo, Alchemy releases an ERC-4337 Q3 stats report, and Friendtech releases support for desktop. This has been a roundup of today's top news stories in Ethereum. You can support this podcast by subscribing and following us on Twitter at ETHDaily. Also subscribe to our newsletter at ethdaily.io. Thanks for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.